They say betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from someone you trust. But trust me, they're wrong. It cuts deepest when it comes from both people you trusted with your life. I wasn't just cheated on, I was erased. By the woman I married, and the man I once called my brother. And here's the part that might surprise you. I didn't shout, I didn't cry, I didn't even slam the door. I just stood there watching them. And in that silence, something inside me snapped. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't going to end with heartbreak. It was going to end with revenge. It was a Wednesday. I remember that clearly, not because anything special was supposed to happen, but because nothing was. That's what made it perfect. My wife Claire thought I had a work meeting that would keep me out till late. I didn't. The client cancelled, so I decided I'd do something rare. Come home early. Surprise. Her? Maybe pick up Thai food on the way. That yellow curry she loved. I remember even smiling in the car, humming to myself like a fool. The house was quiet when I walked in. No TV, no music, just the subtle hum of the dishwasher and the faint creak of movement upstairs. I assumed she was napping or on a call. I didn't think twice. Then I heard it. Not words, not names. Just sounds, breathless, rhythmic, unmistakably intimate. It hit me like a cold wave. My feet rooted to the hardwood floor. For a second, I prayed I was wrong. That maybe I misheard. That maybe it was the TV left on upstairs. But when I climbed the stairs, slowly, as if walking into a nightmare I couldn't wake from, I stopped just outside the bedroom. The door was half open, and there they were, Claire and Daniel. My best friend since high school, the guy who gave a toast at my wedding. The guy who held my mother's hand at her funeral when I was too broken to speak. The man I called brother, in every way that mattered. They didn't see me, not at first. I stood there frozen, watching two people I loved commit a betrayal so casual, so intimate, that it felt rehearsed, like they'd done this before. Many 10 times. That's when I realized this wasn't a mistake. This was a ritual, and I was the fool who never saw the altar. Claire looked up first. Her eyes widened. She didn't scream, she didn't cover herself. She just went pale, like all the blood drained out of her. Daniel turned next, and for the first time since I met him, I saw fear in his eyes. Not guilt, not shame. Fear. And still. I said nothing. I didn't lash out. I didn't punch him. I didn't demand answers or shout, "How could you?" Because in that moment I realized something deeper than betrayal. I realized I didn't exist to them anymore. I turned and walked out, calm, measured, silent. Like I was walking away from a car crash I somehow survived. Outside, the world felt wrong, the air too still, the sun too bright. I got into my car, sat there for a long time, and stared at the steering wheel. Then, without even thinking, I drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just needed out. Out of the house, out of the neighborhood, out of that version of my life. Eventually, I pulled over near a lake about 30 miles out. I used to come here as a kid with my dad. It was quiet, empty, perfect for falling apart. And that's exactly what I did. I don't remember crying. It wasn't that kind of pain. It was deeper, quieter, the kind that turns your stomach inside out and leaves your hands shaking for no reason. I replayed everything in my head, the way Claire laughed at my jokes, the late-night beers with Daniel, the shared history we all had. All of it poisoned now. All of it dead. But the worst part? It wasn't what they did. It was what it revealed. For months, maybe even years, they looked me in the eye and lied, smiled, hugged me, told me they cared, and I believed them. That's the part that destroyed me. I didn't sleep that night. I just stared at the ceiling of my car, heart hollowed out, mind racing with a single thought. You don't get to break me and walk away. Smiling. By sunrise, I knew this story wasn't going to end with a broken heart. It was going to end with payback, and that was just the beginning. That night, I didn't go home, didn't check into a hotel, didn't even answer my phone, though it buzzed non-stop. Claire called me 7 times, Daniel 3. I watched their names light up on my screen like dying stars, familiar, once warm, now just cold reminders of what I'd lost. I let every call go to voicemail. I didn't want words. not from them, because what could they possibly say? It didn't mean anything. We didn't plan for this to happen. Those lies weren't designed to repair, they were designed to protect themselves. No, I didn't need apologies. I needed silence. And I needed to decide what kind of man I was going to be. Morning came slowly, like the world was too ashamed to look me in the eye. I sat by the edge of that lake until the sun burned off the last of the mist. My body ached from sleeping in the car. My throat was raw like I'd screamed in my dreams. I splashed water on my face from the lake, staring at my reflection in the ripples. I looked old. Not in years, but in something deeper, like some innocence had died in me overnight, and I wasn't sure if I even missed it. Claire had been in my life for 9 years, married for 6. Daniel had been in it for 15. What do you do when 2 of the people who know you best know exactly how to destroy you? I drove home just before noon, not because I was ready, but because I had to face the wreckage. When I pulled into the driveway, Claire's car was gone. That was a small mercy. The house was exactly how I left it. And somehow, that hurt more. No signs of remorse, no note, no flowers, not even a message on the whiteboard we usually used, to leave each other little scribbles, just an empty house, and in it, the ghost of a marriage. I went upstairs. The bed was made. I remember staring at the sheets, wondering if she had the audacity to remake the bed after sleeping with my best friend in it. And then I realized she probably did. Because people like Claire, once they cross a line, don't look back. They just clean up the mess and move on. I sat down at the edge of the bed, my hands shaking. I didn't cry. I wanted to. I think some part of me even needed to, but the tears wouldn't come. Instead, I opened my laptop, not for distraction, for documentation. If I was going to walk away from this, I needed the truth. All of it. Every text, every trace. I opened Claire's iCloud account. We shared access, hadn't even thought to change it since we got married. She never assumed I'd look. That was her mistake. And what I found out was worse than I expected. Months of messages, flirty selfies. I miss you texts sent while I was at work. Voice notes from Daniel. Pictures of their secret meetups. Labeled D and C in a hidden album. It wasn't just an affair, it was a relationship, parallel to ours. Hidden in plain sight. I couldn't look away. It was like reading the script of a play I didn't audition for, but everyone else knew their lines. What hit hardest wasn't the physical stuff. It was the emotional intimacy. The way she confided in him about things she used to tell me. The way he said, "I love the way you laugh," when that used to be my line. And then I found something that made my blood go cold. A message from Daniel just 2 weeks ago. "I wish you didn't have to go back to him every night." And Claire replied, "Soon, I promise, just a little longer." They weren't just cheating, they were planning my replacement. I sat there for hours, combing through it all, screenshotting, saving, not for revenge, not yet, but because I needed to see it, to own the truth. Denial was too easy, and I refused to be a man who flinched from the facts. By the time the sun started setting, I had everything, every message, every photo, every betrayal, organized into folders like evidence in a trial, and still. I hadn't heard a single real word from Claire. No knocking on the door, no breakdown at the front porch, no "please talk to me." She had vanished, like a thief who didn't even bother to run. I finally checked my voicemail. One from Claire. Her voice was flat. "Hey, I guess you saw. I'm sorry you found out that way. I didn't mean for this to happen. I think we should talk when you're ready." "Okay, no tears, no panic, just a voice trying to manage the fallout, Daniel." His message was shorter. "Man, I messed up. I don't know what to say. I'll give you space. I hope someday you can..." "Forgive me, forgive. No, never." That night I sat in the living room, lights off, drinking whiskey I'd been saving for a celebration. Funny. Turns out betrayal tastes a lot like bourbon, but in that darkness, something in me started to solidify. Not rage, not bitterness, but clarity. I was never going to let them win by default. I wasn't going to just be a chapter in their love story labeled obstacle. I was going to be the ending they never saw coming. And when I finally fell asleep on the couch, I didn't dream, I planned. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. That's a lie. Revenge is best served calculated, not cold, not blind rage, not broken glass or angry fists, but surgical precision, intentional silence, a smile that hides fire. And that's exactly what I became, a man who burned quietly. Because if they could spend months hiding their affair in plain sight, I could spend a few weeks crafting the ending to their story. By the end of that first week, I had a complete archive of their betrayal. Claire's photos, Daniel's voice notes, even screenshots of their hotel reservations, booked under fake names but linked to Claire's email. I had enough to burn them both to the ground. But I wasn't interested in humiliation for the sake of it. I wanted something deeper, something they'd remember. I wanted to strip away everything they'd built on the lies they told, piece by piece. Step 1, destroy the illusion. See, people like Claire and Daniel thrive on secrecy. They survive by controlling the narrative, by pretending it was a moment of weakness or something that just happened. So I decided to shine a light so bright they couldn't hide in the shadows anymore. I started with Daniel. He was married too, remember? Yeah, his wife Emily and I were casual friends through him. We'd shared birthdays, holidays, even babysat their kids once when they had a last-minute emergency. I emailed Emily. No rant, no threats, just facts. Subject line, you deserve the truth. I attached 6 PDFs, time-stamped messages, geotags, call logs, and one folder labeled hotel receipts. No commentary, no signature, just silence. She replied 20 minutes later with 2 words, thank you. 2 hours after that, Daniel's social media went dark. 3 hours later, a mutual friend texted me, dude, did you hear? Emily kicked him out. She's done. Good. That was just the beginning. Step 2. The reputation cleanse. Daniel worked in finance. Image was everything. He bragged constantly about how much trust his clients placed in him. So I sent one anonymous email to his firm's HR team, no lies. No exaggerations, just attached screenshots of him using company travel points for those hotel stays. Company card, used to cover one of the dinners. Careless mistake. Big one. 2 days later, I received confirmation from someone inside. Daniel had been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. He didn't just lose his family. He was losing the career he used to brag about every time we grabbed drinks. Now for Claire, this part was more delicate. Claire worked in marketing, and appearances were her drug. Her Instagram was polished, curated. Perfect. Our wedding photos were still up. Blessed in my person. I didn't want to just delete that image. I wanted to twist it. So I made a new Instagram, anonymous, faceless, and I started following her friends, posting cryptic captions using her own texts, line by line. One day it was, I love how he never suspects anything. He's too trusting. Another, he still thinks I'm just tired from work, lol. The comments lit up. People knew, but they didn't know who was behind it, and Claire started to panic. She texted me 4 times that night. What are you doing? Please stop this. You've made your point. You're hurting everyone, not just us. You've changed. You're scaring me. No, Claire, I didn't change. You just never bothered to see who I was underneath your version of me, and I wasn't done yet. I planned a dinner party. It sounds petty, I know, but I had a reason. We'd scheduled it a month ago before the affair came to light. Claire's parents, my brother, a few neighbors. Close-knit, intimate. I didn't cancel it. Instead, I used it. I cooked, cleaned, set the table. Claire showed up late, hair done, acting like everything was fine. She smiled that fake smile, the one I used to believe meant love. And right before dessert, I dimmed the lights and said I had a short video to play to thank everyone for being here. It was a slideshow, photos of me and Claire smiling. Then, photos of her and Daniel. Text messages. Voice clips, their betrayal neatly packaged in 10 minutes of digital truth. You could have heard a pin drop. Claire turned pale. Her mother gasped. My brother stood up and stormed out. No one touched their dessert. Claire didn't say a word. She just walked out, and I poured myself a glass of wine. You see, Revenge isn't about cruelty. It's about clarity. I wasn't trying to break her. I was just giving her a front-row seat to the life she destroyed and letting her know I saw everything. That night, I sat alone in the kitchen, watching the candles melt into wax puddles on the tablecloth. I thought I'd feel triumphant, victorious, but all I felt was peace. I didn't need them to suffer forever. I didn't need to destroy their lives completely. I just needed the truth to speak louder than their lies. And it had. So when I went to bed that night, I didn't lock the doors, didn't check the cameras, didn't reread the texts. I just lay there and slept. For the first time in months, maybe years, I slept like a man who had taken back his name. Some people run from the truth, others bend it. Claire tried to bury it. But I wasn't done yet, because in the aftermath of my dinner party reveal, something strange happened. She didn't apologize, she didn't beg. She didn't show up crying at my door. No, she went online and started telling her version of the story. It began with a single post on her Instagram 2 days later, a moody black and white photo of a sunset, captioned, "When trust is broken." On both sides, sometimes healing means walking away. Please be kind. Everyone's going through battles you can't see. And just like that, she flipped the narrative. Now, she was the victim. A wounded wife who was coping with a mutual breakdown. Not a cheater, not a liar, just a woman trying to heal after a toxic relationship. I read it twice, then laughed out loud. It wasn't just manipulative, it was masterfully calculated. You see, Claire was smart. She knew how to control perception. She'd spent years building this image. Perfect wife, marketing professional, emotionally intelligent, mental health advocate. Now that her mask had slipped, she needed to reclaim the narrative, and she did it the only way she knew how. By twisting the knife, then pointing at me and crying, "Abuse." Friends began messaging me awkwardly. "I don't know what happened, man, but I hope you're okay. Claire said you were really harsh at the dinner. Maybe you could have handled it differently." Handled it differently. I exposed the truth. That's it. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her. I didn't even name names. And yet, somehow, I was the villain now. No, I wasn't going to let that stand. So I did what Claire never expected me to do. I spoke directly to her audience, not with vengeance, with evidence. I created a clean, neutral blog post titled "The Other Side of the Story" from the man who stayed quiet too long. No rants, no expletives, no insults, just facts. I opened with, "I don't believe in online drama. But when silence becomes a weapon used against you, you're left with no choice but to speak up." Then I laid it all out. The dates, the messages, the photos and the voice memos, and most importantly, the timeline that showed her affair wasn't a reaction to a broken marriage. It caused it. I didn't use her name. I didn't mention Daniel, but I didn't need to. People knew. And once the post gained traction, so did the whispers. Her healing story cracked wide open. She tried to get it taken down, filed a privacy complaint, but I had anonymized everything, no names, no faces. The truth was legal, and truth, as it turns out, has a long reach. She lost a sponsorship deal that week. One of her side gigs, a wellness brand, dropped her silently. Her reputation? Tainted, not destroyed, but uncomfortable. And that was enough, because I never wanted her to lose everything. I just wanted her to stop pretending. Meanwhile, Daniel had gone. Quiet, no social posts, no updates. Word got around he was couch surfing, trying to mend things with his kids, who wouldn't even look at him. One of our old friends texted me, "He's not the same, man. Keep saying you ruined his life." I didn't reply, because I didn't ruin anything, they did. I just made sure they couldn't hide from it. But here's the thing no one tells you about revenge. It doesn't feel the way you think it will. There's no champagne moment, no standing ovation. It's quieter, more hollow, like winning a war you never wanted to fight in the first place. Some nights, I'd sit in the empty house, staring at the blank walls, wondering if I went too far. Then I'd open my folder of screenshots and remind myself, this wasn't cruelty. This was self-defense. Claire weaponized perception. I countered with reality. The tipping point came 2 weeks later. She showed up at my door, not angry, not in tears, just tired. She looked like she hadn't slept. Her mascara was smudged. She wore a hoodie that once belonged to me. "Can we talk?" she asked. I didn't say a word, just stepped aside. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table. The same one. We used to eat dinner at every night. The silence between us felt like a third person in the room. Then she said it. "I didn't think you'd actually fight back." That stunned me. Not because it was cruel, but because it was honest. She wasn't sorry for the affair. She was sorry I didn't roll over and take it. And that's when I realized Claire didn't miss me. She missed control. I looked her in the eyes and said quietly, "You thought I'd stay broken. But you forgot I know how to rebuild." She didn't argue. She just nodded, stood up, and walked out of my life. No drama, no final monologue, just the sound of the door closing behind her. They say truth is power. But what they don't tell you is that truth, when used well, is the most elegant revenge of all, because it doesn't just destroy lies, it starves them. And when the lies die, so do the people who depend on them to survive. The thing about best friends is, they know your weak spots, your fears, your doubts, and if they're monsters in disguise, they'll weaponize all of it. Daniel wasn't just a friend, he was family. He was the guy who helped me move after college, the guy who bought the ring with me when I proposed to Claire, the guy who told me I was like a brother when my dad died. He took that history and set fire to it for a few nights in a hotel room. When Claire walked out of my house for the last time, I thought it might be over. Emotionally, maybe. But Daniel, he hadn't hit bottom yet, and he was about to learn that karma isn't a myth. It's just a man with receipts and time. I didn't go looking for his downfall. It came to me. A mutual acquaintance, Mason, called me up out of the blue. "Dude," he said. "Did you hear about Daniel?" "No," I replied, deadpan. "Stopped keeping tabs after he slept with my wife." Mason winced. "Fair. Well, he's being investigated. Like, seriously, one of his clients is pressing charges." That got my attention. Turns out Daniel hadn't just betrayed me. He'd been bending the rules at work, using client accounts to float personal expenses. A dinner here, a hotel there, all small, all buried in travel reports. Until the client noticed a billing irregularity and filed a complaint. Then the HR department dug deeper. Guess whose name showed up on 3 different hotel receipts? Claire's. He'd booked the same suite multiple times at different rates, covering the costs through company reimbursements. And the best part? The digital trail led straight to his login credentials. Within a week, Daniel was suspended without pay. The financial firm released a vague statement. "We take breaches of client trust seriously and are reviewing all allegations." In other words, they were preparing to cut him loose. I didn't gloat, didn't make calls, didn't post anything. I just watched the quiet unraveling of a man who thought he'd never get caught. But his work life was only half the picture. Emily, his wife, was far more merciless than I ever was. She filed for divorce immediately after receiving the evidence I sent her. No mediation, no therapy, no second chances. She took the kids, filed for full custody, and to top it off, she sued him for emotional distress and financial dishonesty, citing his misuse of marital funds. He wasn't just losing his home, he was losing his identity. Daniel had always walked through life with the confidence of someone who never faced consequences. Now, for the first time, he was drowning, and no one was reaching in to save him. I ran into him by accident about a month later, at a gas station of all places. I pulled in to pump gas, looked across the lot, and there he was, sitting on the curb outside the mini-mart, beard overgrown. Hoodie pulled low, a plastic bag of takeout at his feet. He looked up, eyes bloodshot, and for a second he looked almost relieved. "Hey," he said. I didn't reply. He stood up slowly, walked over like someone approaching a wild animal. Cautious, afraid, I wanted to say, "I'm sorry," he said. "Really?" I stayed silent. He kept going. "I messed everything up, I know that. I lost my family, my job. Claire's gone too. She moved back with her sister, won't answer my calls." I met his eyes, and finally I spoke. "You didn't." Just mess up, Daniel. You chose this. Every time you looked me in the eye and lied, you chose this. He nodded. I know. I gave you 15 years, I said, and you gave me 15 reasons to hate you. That's when his eyes welled up. I never meant to hurt you, man, he whispered. And for the first time, I almost believed him, but it didn't matter. I'm not here for an apology, I said. I'm here to fill my gas tank, that's it. Then I turned and walked away. Not because I was angry, because I had nothing left to say to a ghost. Later that night, I got a message from Emily. She wrote, I heard you saw him today. Thank you for telling me the truth when no one else would. It hit me harder than I expected, because in all this wreckage I realized something. The truth didn't just set me free, it gave others the power to walk away too. Emily, the kids, even Claire, in her own warped way. Daniel had built his life like a castle of mirrors, reflecting whatever image he wanted the world to see. But mirrors are fragile, and once I threw the first stone, the rest shattered on their own. People often ask me if I regret it, if I regret blowing everything up, if I regret ruining a friendship, if I regret exposing the affair so publicly. Here's my answer. No, because I didn't ruin anything. I just took off the mask, and when the dust settled, the man behind it wasn't someone I even recognized anymore. Daniel still lives in the city, alone, quiet. Last I heard, he's working part-time at a logistics company. No clients, no desk, no trust. Meanwhile, I sleep at night, I eat dinner with real friends, and I wake up knowing the people in my life didn't lie to get there. Daniel thought he was winning in secret. But secrets don't stay hidden forever. And when they come out, they take everything with them. There's a special kind of silence that follows betrayal. It's not peaceful. It's not reflective. It's charged, like the air before a storm. And in that silence, Claire moved carefully, like nothing had happened, like she could still spin her story, wear her curated smile, and walk away clean. But masks can only hold so long. And I was done letting her hide. After the blog post gained traction, Claire went dark for a while. No new Instagram posts. No inspirational quotes. She knew her image was slipping. Her friends were asking questions. Some unfollowed her. Others sent her polite but distant messages. And yet, she still didn't say a word to me. No apology, no confrontation, just a quiet retreat. Into the same illusion she built her life around. Then I got the invitation, a birthday brunch. Hosted by a mutual friend, small gathering, 10 people. Claire would be there. At first I didn't plan to go. But then I realized something. Claire had never been confronted. Not truly. Not publicly. She slithered around the truth like it was optional, and if she was going to keep showing her face, then I wanted everyone to see what lay beneath that smile. I didn't bring evidence. I didn't raise my voice. I just brought clarity. The brunch started quiet. Mimosas, light music, people chatting in the backyard. Claire showed up 30 minutes in. Hair perfect, dress carefully chosen. She hugged our host, smiled at everyone, like nothing had changed. When she saw me, she froze for half a second, then forced a smile and said, "Hey, didn't expect to see you here," I nodded. I get that a lot. She laughed awkwardly and turned away, but the room felt it. People noticed. And I wasn't done. When we sat down to eat, I waited until conversation turned to relationships. Someone made a joke about dating apps and a friend teased, "Well, at least none of us have had that kind of drama, right?" Laughter followed, until I calmly said, "Unless your wife cheats on you with your best friend of 15 years, then it's not so funny." Silence. Forks paused mid-air. Claire's face drained of color, and I just kept eating. The host cleared her throat, trying to change the subject, but someone asked, "Wait, was that real? That blog post?" I looked up. "Every word," Claire stammered. I don't think this is the place." "Why not?" I asked. "It was public enough when you posted about your healing journey." She glared at me. "You're humiliating me." I shook my head. "No, Claire, you did that. I'm just removing the stage curtain." After that, the brunch crumbled. People left early. Conversations grew short, hushed, awkward. Claire tried to save face, thanking the host, hugging her with robotic precision, but no one hugged her back. Her smile cracked, and in that moment, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt free, because it wasn't about vengeance anymore. It was about letting the truth breathe in spaces where she thought it couldn't survive. The final blow came 2 weeks later. Claire had a speaking engagement lined up, a women's networking event. She helped organize every year. She was slated to talk about resilience and personal growth. I'd attended before. She was good, confident, charismatic. But this year, the committee quietly pulled her name from the program. Word had spread. Too many attendees had read my blog. Too many whispers in professional circles. One of the organizers emailed me anonymously. We don't condone public takedowns, but we also don't reward liars who package betrayal as empowerment. Thank you for speaking up. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Her consequences were finally catching up. A week later, Claire called, not to apologize, to plead. Her voice was tight, trembling. I get it. I messed up. You hate me, but can you please stop? I'm losing friends. I can't book work. People are starting to turn on me. I listened. Let her speak. Then I said calmly, Claire, I haven't done anything. Since the truth came out, you're not being punished, you're being seen. She hung up. That was the last time we spoke. She moved out of the city shortly after, closed her social accounts, started fresh somewhere else. At least she tried to. But you can't run from the truth. It moves faster than lies. And when you spend your life building a mask, losing it feels like losing everything. People often ask me if I forgave her. The answer? No. I didn't forgive. I didn't forget. I outgrew her, and that's more powerful than any apology she could have offered. Because I didn't need her to admit she was wrong. I just needed the world to know I was right. After the dust settled, after the truth exploded and the lies stopped spinning, there was no dramatic climax, no final showdown, no grand apology, just quiet. For the first time in years, my life was silent. No calls, no fake laughter, no one walking through the door pretending everything was fine. Just me. In an empty house filled with old furniture and new space, and I had no idea what to do with it. I thought that once the revenge was done, once I had exposed them, faced them, buried the past, I'd feel whole again. But healing doesn't come with a scoreboard. It doesn't arrive the moment justice is served. It comes slowly, quietly, like grass pushing through cracks in concrete, and it starts with the smallest, most unexpected things. For me, it began with breakfast. I woke up one morning a few weeks later. No alarm, no expectations, just the soft light slipping through the blinds, and for the first time in forever, I felt hungry, not just for food, but for something. So I went into the kitchen, made myself scrambled eggs, toast, coffee, everything Claire used to make and complain about halfway through. She always said I was too picky, too simple, but standing there in the kitchen flipping eggs in silence, I felt oddly alive. I wasn't cooking for someone who resented me. I wasn't being judged for how much salt I used. I was just existing, freely. That same day, I opened the closet and packed 2 boxes, one for things that no longer felt like mine, the sweater she bought me for our anniversary, the matching mugs we never used, the framed photo of our honeymoon that had been quietly mocking me for months. The second box? For rediscovery. I pulled out my old guitar, dusted off my hiking boots, dug through drawers until I found a notebook filled with ideas I wrote when I still believed in creating things. It hit me like a wave. I had forgotten who I was. I had given so much of myself away in that marriage, in that friendship, that I didn't even recognize my own voice anymore. So I started listening for it. I took walks every morning. No destination, just steps. Some days I ended up at the local bookstore. Other days I found myself at the lake, the same one I drove to after finding them together. Funny how a place of pain can become a place of clarity. One morning I sat there with a notebook and wrote, maybe this isn't the end. Maybe this is the untangling. Maybe I wasn't broken, I was just buried. That line stayed with me. I underlined it, and I kept writing. Therapy helped too. Not the tell me about your childhood kind. The honest, blunt kind. The kind where someone looks you in the eye and says, what happened to you wasn't your fault. But what you do next is your responsibility. That changed everything. Because I could have stayed bitter, I could have made vengeance my identity. But I didn't want to be the guy who got cheated on. I wanted to be the guy who woke up after the collapse. I reconnected with old friends. Some reached out after hearing what happened. Others, I called myself not to talk about Claire or Daniel, but to ask, hey, remember that camping trip we always talked about? Or, you still play basketball Thursday nights? Piece by piece, I rebuilt my life. And in doing so, I discovered something important. When you remove the people who pretend to care, you make room for the people who actually do. One evening, I ran into a woman at the bookstore. She was reading the same novel I had just finished, flipping, pages with that quiet concentration that reminded me of how life used to feel before all the chaos. We started talking about books, about coffee, not about exes or betrayal or pain. It wasn't love at first sight. It was something better. It was calm, and after everything I'd been through, calm felt like a miracle. Somewhere along the way, the house didn't feel empty anymore. Not because someone else moved in, but because I moved back in, fully present, unapologetically me. I painted the walls, changed the curtains, hung up new art, things Claire would have hated, things that felt like mine, and I stopped checking her social media, stopped wondering how Daniel was doing, stopped waiting for some final, satisfying moment of closure, because I realized closure isn't something they give you, it's something you build yourself. One night, as I sat by the fireplace with a cup of tea and a book in my lap, I smiled to myself. Not because life was perfect, but because I had survived the storm. And after the fire, after the wreckage, after the betrayals and the lies, I didn't just stand up. I rose, not as a victim, not as a man consumed by revenge, but as someone who rebuilt from ashes, brick by honest brick. You expect victory to come with fireworks, with dramatic final scenes, sweeping music and applause. But real victory, it's quiet. It's a cup of coffee on a peaceful morning. It's the absence of chaos. It's the smile you give yourself in the mirror, not because everything is perfect, but because you're still here. And that is how I knew I had won. It's been a year, 12 months since I walked in on the two people I trusted most and watched them rip my life in half. 12 months since the silence, the revenge, the confrontation, the collapse. At some point, the rage faded. The grief softened. The obsession with how it happened, why it happened, who said what, it all quieted, and what remained was peace. Not the peace of forgetting, but the peace of no longer needing answers. Claire tried to reach out one last time. A long email, well written like always. She said she was sorry that she'd been in therapy, that what we had was real even if she messed it up. And at the end she wrote, I don't expect you to forgive me, but if there's ever a version of us that can talk again, I'd be grateful. I read it twice, then deleted it. Not out of bitterness, out of clarity. I wasn't angry anymore. I just wasn't interested. Forgiveness isn't always about letting someone back in. Sometimes it's about letting yourself move on without needing revenge or closure or anything at all. She got her version of life and I got mine. And in mine, she doesn't exist anymore. Daniel? He never wrote, never called, never showed up. I think he finally understood. Some bridges aren't burned, they're vaporized. I heard from a mutual friend that he's living in a small apartment across town, working delivery jobs, trying to stay sober. I wish him well, I really do. Because the man I once called brother died the day he looked me in the eye and still chose betrayal. And the man left in his place, well, he's not mine to worry about. As for me, I've built something new. Not flashy, not loud, just real. I started journaling again, turned pieces of this story into articles, then into essays, and eventually into a book, a memoir maybe, or a warning, or a love letter to anyone who ever had their heart broken and thought they wouldn't survive. And to my surprise, people read it, not because it was polished, but because it was honest. Because somewhere out there, someone else is sitting in their car like I once did, hands shaking, world collapsing, and they need to hear one simple truth. You are not ruined. You are just being rewritten. The house looks different now. New paint, new couch, no ghosts. The pictures on the wall aren't of a failed marriage. They're of mountains I've hiked, sunsets I chased, moments I was fully alive, not performing. And in the corner, there's a framed quote I hung last week. It says, "Sometimes the people who break you are the reason you finally rebuild." I met someone, no big story, no whirlwind romance, just a woman who listens more than she talks, who laughs with her whole face, who doesn't flinch when I talk about the past. We're not rushing, because when you've been shattered and put yourself back together piece by piece, you don't hand your heart to just anyone. You guard it, but not with walls, with wisdom. Last week, I passed by the old park where Daniel and I used to play basketball. I stopped and watched two strangers shoot hoops laughing. It didn't hurt. It didn't bring back memories that stabbed me. It just reminded me that time keeps moving, and healing isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. You just wake up one day, look at something that used to break you, and realize it doesn't own you anymore. So here I am, a man who was betrayed, who was humiliated, who lost everything that once defined him. And yet, I am more myself now than I ever was before. That's the thing about pain. It doesn't just take. If you let it, it purifies. It strips away the false, the fragile, the fake. And what remains is something unshakable. Claire and Daniel thought they broke me, but the truth, they freed me from illusions, from dependency, from the weight of relationships that were never truly mine to begin with. And in their absence, I found the one person I had lost for years, myself. No more masks, no more pretending, no more waiting for apologies that never come, just me, a live, quiet whole. And that is the sweetest victory of all.